Some voices define a generation. They fill stadiums, sell millions of records, and become the soundtrack to first kisses, long drives, and quiet grief.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me.
Then time does what time always does. The instrument that once soared begins to fade, and one day the voice that seemed immortal is simply gone. Tonight, we look at 10 old legends whose voices are completely gone. If the golden age of rock and soul still stirs something in you, consider subscribing so you never miss a video like this one. Number 10. Rod Stewart.
It's a high, nothing but a high.
Few singers built a career on rasp the way Rod Stewart did, turning that sandpaper edge into one of the most recognizable sounds in popular music. From the early Faces years through his run of solo hits in the 1970s, his voice carried both grit and tenderness, often in the same line. He sang about heartbreak with a wink and about longing with a growl, and audiences loved him for both. But the years have not been kind to that famous rasp. Stewart has spoken openly about surgery for thyroid cancer in the early 2000s, and about the long, difficult work of relearning how to sing afterward. Recent live recordings show a voice thinned by time, its old power replaced by careful phrasing and generous backup singers. The showman remains. The instrument that made him a legend has quietly slipped away. To understand how steep that fall is, consider what was lost. In 1971, Stewart released Every Picture Tells a Story, and the title track alone showed a voice that could bark, plead, and swagger inside 4 minutes without a single forced note. Maggie May from that same album became one of the most played songs in BBC radio history. By 1978, Da Ya Think I'm Sexy proved he could pivot to disco without losing the essential roughness that made him him. That roughness is what the thyroid surgery quietly erased. Listeners who caught his 2019 Las Vegas residency noted that even familiar songs like Tonight's the Night were being delivered in keys, a full step or two below the original recordings, with key phrases handed off to backing vocalists entirely. Number 9. Joni Mitchell.
Dizzy dancing where you feel as every fairy tale.
Joni Mitchell once possessed one of the most agile voices in modern music, a soprano that could leap octaves inside a single line and turn a folk lyric into something closer to a small opera. Her early albums, from Blue through Court and Spark, captured that voice at its most weightless and precise. Then came the cigarettes, the years, and eventually a brain aneurysm in 2015 that nearly ended her life.
Reading Rolling Stone, reading Vogue. They said, how long can you hang around? I said a week, maybe 2.
Her remarkable return to the stage at the Newport Folk Festival in 2022 moved audiences to tears. But the voice they heard was a different instrument entirely. Deeper, slower, beautiful in its own way, yet clearly a survivor rather than the soaring bird of blue. The original Joni voice is gone, and no comeback can bring it back. The contrast is documented in numbers that are almost cruel in their precision. The opening line of A Case of You on the 1971 recording of Blue sits in a register that voice teachers classify as high mezzo-soprano, effortlessly sustained. Her Newport 2022 performance of the same song placed those same phrases a full fourth lower, and phrases that once floated were now delivered seated.
And they rain and they snow on everyone.
Guitar resting across her lap as she recovered strength between verses. The audience gave her a standing ovation before she had finished the first song. That response was not charity. It was the recognition of someone who had crossed an impossible distance and arrived. Number 8. Bob Dylan. Wrong to expect a nightingale from a poet. Dylan never had a pretty voice, but he had a piercing one, nasal and knowing, capable of carrying a lyric like a lit match through a dark room. Through the 60s and 70s, that voice was strange, thrilling, and unmistakable. Today, the man still tours relentlessly, and audiences still fill the seats out of love and loyalty. The The voice, though, has thickened into a low rasp that often obscures the very lyrics that made him famous. Some nights the phrasing works, and old songs feel newly haunted. Other nights the words dissolve into gravel. The Dylan of Highway 61 Revisited exists only on record now, preserved in vinyl grooves like a fossil of another century. Dylan has played more than 3,000 shows since 1988 alone, a stretch his own camp calls the never-ending tour. That relentless pace is part of why the voice aged so aggressively. Critics reviewing his 2023 shows at the Beacon Theater in New York noted that, like a Rolling Stone, perhaps the most recognizable opening line in rock history, was delivered so low and so slowly that several audience members did not recognize the song until its second verse.
Say you are my friend. When I was down, you just stood there.
Number 7. Ozzy Osbourne. By the late 1970s, Ozzy Osbourne had one of the most identifiable wails in heavy metal, a slightly off-kilter, deeply human voice that cut through the massive walls of Black Sabbath and later his solo band. It was never technically perfect, and that was its charm. Decades of touring, health struggles, and a Parkinson's diagnosis have taken a heavy toll. His final performances have shown a man of enormous will and diminished vocal range, propped up by a devoted band and by fans who understand exactly what they are witnessing. The Prince of Darkness earned every ounce of that farewell love. His voice, in the form that shook arenas for half a century, is essentially gone, replaced by something more fragile, more tender, and inescapably final. The Parkinson's diagnosis became public in January 2020, though Osbourne has indicated symptoms began years earlier. By the time of his appearance at the Commonwealth Games closing ceremony in Birmingham in August 2022, the performance required visible physical effort just to remain standing at the microphone. Paranoid, a song he first recorded with Black Sabbath in 1970, was delivered at a fraction of its original intensity. The crowd sang most of it back to him, which was both heartbreaking and quietly magnificent.
When the sun goes down, the animals cry.
Number 6. Stevie Nicks.
Darling me, who wants to wrap around your dream?
Stevie Nicks built her legend on a voice that seemed to come from a slightly older, slightly wounded place than her years should have allowed. That smoky alto, wrapped in shawls and mystery, powered Fleetwood Mac classics and a long solo career that carried her deep into the 21st century. Her voice today still carries emotion, but the effortless swirl of Rhiannon and Dreams has clearly narrowed.
I've been afraid of changing 'cause
Keys are lowered, phrases are shortened, and long notes are handled with obvious care. What remains is a compelling performer working around the edges of an instrument that used to do whatever she asked. The old Stevie voice belongs to the records now. Nicks has been candid about one specific cause beyond simple aging. During the 1980s, she was prescribed Klonopin to manage anxiety, and she has said in interviews that the 8 years she spent dependent on that drug did more damage to her voice and her memory than cocaine ever did. She checked into a rehabilitation facility in 1993. The voice that emerged on her 1994 album Street Angel was noticeably lower and less flexible than the one on Belladonna from 1981, and it never fully recovered its upper register. Before we continue our countdown, take a moment to drop a comment and let us know where you are watching from tonight. And tell us which of these legends first pulled you into their music. It is genuinely moving to see how these voices connected people across cities, decades, and living rooms. Number 5. Paul McCartney.
There's a shadow hanging over me. Only yesterday.
Few singers ever had a range like Paul McCartney in his prime, capable of a tender ballad one moment and a screaming rock vocal the next. From the early Beatles years, through Band on the Run and beyond, his voice seemed almost incapable of tiring. He simply sang, and it worked. McCartney is now in his 80s and still touring, which is remarkable in itself. But recent shows reveal a voice that has thinned considerably at the top and softened at the bottom. Notes that once soared are now handled with clever arrangements or shared with the band. His musicianship is undiminished. The specific McCartney voice that carried Hey Jude to the sky, however, exists mainly in memory and on record.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
The Got Back tour of 2022 and 2023 grossed over $100 million, proving his drawing power remains absolute. But footage from those nights shows Hey Jude's climactic na-na-na section carried almost entirely by the audience while McCartney conducts from the stage, a charming reversal that also quietly papers over the fact that sustaining those phrases for 3 minutes is no longer within his reach. In 1968, he held the closing note of the studio version with effortless chest voice. In 2023, at Dodger Stadium in front of 50,000 people, the band and the crowd did it for him.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Number 4. Diana Ross.
And baby, every time you touch me, I become a hero.
Diana Ross ruled the 1960s from behind a microphone at Motown, her voice a silky, precise instrument that could sell a love song with the smallest catch in a syllable. Through her Supremes years and into her solo career, she made hit after hit sound effortless, as if the songs simply arrived through her. Recent performances show a beloved icon working carefully within reduced range, leaning on hits her audience already knows by heart. The glamour is intact, the presence is undeniable, but the crystalline top notes of her prime, the ones that made Motown records shimmer, have quietly retired even when Diana herself has not. Number 3. Elton John. Elton John spent decades belting from behind a piano with a voice that could handle everything from Your Song to Saturday Night's All Right. In the early 1970s, he was one of the most technically impressive singers in popular music, moving between falsetto and full chest voice with dazzling ease.
And can you feel the love tonight?
Throat surgery in the mid-1980s permanently altered the shape of that instrument, lowering his range and giving his voice a huskier grain. His long farewell tour showcased a savvy performer working expertly within new limits. He has now stepped away from touring, and rightly so. The Elton voice of Tumbleweed Connection and Madman, Across the Water is well and truly gone. His brilliance preserved only in the recordings that made him a legend. The Farewell Yellow Brick Road Tour, which began in September 2018 and concluded in July 2023, grossed an extraordinary $900 million, making it one of the highest-earning concert tours in history. During its final legs, Elton performed many songs in keys 2 to 3 steps lower than their studio originals. Tiny Dancer, originally recorded in B-flat major, was regularly performed in G Rocket Man, dropped from its studio key of B major to G minor on several documented nights. The voice still communicated feeling. The specific instrument that created those recordings half a century ago had been gone for decades.
I may not always love you, but as long as there are stars above you.
Number 2. Willie Nelson.
For love's the greatest healer to be found.
Willie Nelson has always been more phrasing than pure voice, an unhurried country storyteller whose gift was making a lyric feel like a private confession. That gift carried him from the Nashville songwriter years through Red-Headed Stranger and into decades of touring that few artists his age have ever matched.
For love's the greatest healer to be found.
Willie is well into his 90s now and continues to perform when he is able. His voice has grown reedy and small, sometimes catching mid-line, sometimes barely rising above the band. Yet the phrasing survives, even as the tone fades. What once was a gently worn wooden instrument has become something even more fragile. The old Willie voice is largely gone. The old Willie soul is still very much here. Number 1. Tony Bennett.
Get your troubles and let's get happy. We're gonna chase your blues away.
Tony Bennett may be the gentlest example on this list, and the most beautiful farewell. For more than 7 decades, he sang the American songbook with warmth, taste, and an easy, generous swing that seemed to invite every listener to sit down beside him. An Alzheimer's diagnosis in the 2010s gradually took much from him, but the songs, remarkably, stayed. His duet performances with Lady Gaga in his final touring years showed a man who had lost many things, yet still knew every word of Fly Me to the Moon. Bennett's final public concert took place at Radio City Music Hall in August 2021, a few weeks before his 95th birthday. He shared the stage with Lady Gaga for 2 nights, and those who were there described watching him find the music even when the surrounding world had grown unfamiliar. He passed away in July 2023 at the age of 96. The New York Times obituary ran above the fold. Frank Sinatra once called him the best singer in the business, and Sinatra was not given to easy compliments. Since his passing, that specific voice, silky and sincere, exists only on record now. And what a record it is, a lifetime of standards sung with genuine love, a farewell that reminds us why we treasure these voices in the first place and why we mourn so deeply when they finally go.